arrived at a steep angle into the ground. Mildly claustrophobic, she closed her eyes and tried to think of something else. Nancy, who was aware of Amanda's phobia, prattled on in an attempt at distraction. As the girls neared the top of the escalator, Amanda opened her eyes, breathing a little easier in spite of the foreboding that had nestled in her bones. She caught a glimpse of the long tunnel leading back down to the metro, and vertigo gripped her briefly before she turned around and faced the gathering light of the subway entrance. It was 4 o'clock on a beautiful Wednesday in early June when they walked out into the sunlight. Heading down 7th Street, they passed Eastern Market, which was buzzing with activity as people bought fresh meat and fish for the evening meal, or browsed the stalls that sold everything from pots and pans to vintage clothing. Gentrification had come haltingly to the area in the 1990s, but its effects were unmistakable. BMWs now vied with late-model Chevys and low-end Toyotas for parking, and the prices at the shops in the market had risen dramatically. The girls walked south along 7th Street for a few blocks, leaving the BMWs behind until they came to G Street. Amanda turned left and started heading east. Nancy grabbed her by the arm. "Where are you going?" she demanded. Amanda looked at her. "Home," she replied simply. Nancy looked down the street at the overgrown weeds that pitted many of the yards. As in the rest of the nation's capital, neighborhoods changed quickly from street to street in the area south of Eastern Market, and children learned early which routes were safe and which were not. "That's not a good block. We're supposed to walk around." Amanda frowned and looked down the block herself. She knew that Nancy was right, and yet she wanted to get home quickly as the feeling of dread continued to gnaw at her stomach. Besides, her grandmother was coming over that evening for an early supper, and Amanda, who was sensitive to the tension between her mother and her grandmother, wanted to be at the house to help her mother prepare. "This way's faster," she said stubbornly. "We'll be fine." Nancy looked frightened. "I don't want to." "Fine, then don't." Amanda knew that Nancy wouldn't let her go alone. "Please," Nancy pleaded. "Can we just turn around?" "No," Amanda said. "I'm tired of going around." With that, she turned and headed up the block. Nancy stood looking at her, biting her lip. Finally, she rolled her eyes and followed her friend down the street, running to catch up. The two girls walked close together, their eyes straight ahead and turned down toward the pavement. They didn't see or hear a soul until they were halfway down the block. The rustle came from up ahead of them, just off to the left from within a decrepit garden in front of a boarded-up house. Amanda glanced up quickly and saw the 3 men lounging on the front steps of the tumble-down building, each with a tall brown paper sack wrapped tightly around a bottle sitting between his legs. They leaned back on their elbows, sweat beading on their foreheads in the humid early evening air. There was a dangerous energy about them, a coiled tension in the way they regarded their surroundings. "Yo, Jerome, check this shit out. Schoolgirls." Amanda redirected her eyes forward as she and Nancy quickened their pace. As unsettling as the young man's attention was, it didn't particularly frighten her. His voice betrayed a bravado that lacked intention, and living in the city had numbed her to such empty intimidation. The next voice she heard was different, though, and it sucked the wind out of her lungs. "Hey, sugar," the voice said simply. It was low and measured, and full of a threat so plain that Amanda was instantly terrified. She continued to walk, but her legs felt dream-heavy, and her head spun with images too awful to acknowledge. "I know you girls can hear me," the man said, a hint of impatience growing in his voice. "Don't be like that, all shy and whatnot. You stop and talk to me now, you hear?" Amanda could feel Nancy stiffen with fear as she kept her head down. "Keep walking," Amanda urged silently. "Keep walking and we'll be fine." "Stop!" The man shouted the word with such fury that both girls froze. Amanda turned slowly. She looked at the man sitting at the top of the stoop, trying not to let her fear show, though she knew it was no use. His skin was almond brown.